This video is going to instruct you on starting your final contour line drawing. You finished your thumbnails, you've got some good variety, you've chosen which one you think is the best. All the objects fit within the frame nicely, it feels balanced. Go ahead and place a star next to the one that you are going to draw as your final composition. The next thing I'd like you to take a look at with me is page 21 in your learning guide. This is your checklist. This is how you will be assessed on your final drawing. So if you want a 4 in each column, I'm going to be looking for the following: that you have demonstrated correct proportions, angles, curves, and negative spaces, so that you're matching the negative spaces, the curves, the angles that you see in the still life in front of you. I want to see that you're including subtle changes and details. So if the line isn't perfectly straight, don't draw it perfectly straight. Make sure you're drawing those subtle changes and details that you're seeing within the objects. All objects are drawn accurately in relation to each other in size, shape, and position. So if the apple is next to the vase, don't put it in front of the vase if it's actually next to the vase. Don't change the arrangement of the objects that you see in front of you. Your drawing is well balanced and the objects fit the format so that you're drawing them big to fill the entire piece of paper. That you've included all complex textured objects in your line of vision. So just because that troll looks like it's difficult to draw doesn't mean that you can ignore it and leave it out. You need to attempt to draw it as accurately as you possibly can. Your contour lines should be smooth and fluid. You want to make sure that you have line variation that shows thick, medium, and thin lines, and your paper is clean and smooth. Your erasing is not evident. So especially for those of you that have a really hard time practicing drawing lightly, now is your chance to go ahead and practice that. So I'm going to go ahead and show you my view here, kind of my still life. What I'm thinking is that I'm going to capture this apple and vase, and then I'm also going to capture the vase up above, the small bottle behind, and then I might also be able to get in some of this blue vase as well. I'm going to decide to do that as a vertical composition, and so that's why I've placed my paper vertically. When you begin, you're not starting off with strong contour lines. You want to make sure that you are kind of loosely putting in the information in order to see how it's going to fit. So that's going to be the opening of my vase. It might be too big. I'm drawing really, really light so that I can kind of see how things are going to fit on my paper. I did draw it too big. I'm going to draw it smaller. That's what erasers are for. I'm actually not going to erase it completely until I've gotten it in how I want it to look. Now, you might not even be able to see much of this on the screen. My apple is here. I'm going to get a little bit of this blue vase in here, or bottle. It doesn't look like much at this point. It doesn't need to. It's a rough sketch that I'm getting in. I'm comparing the top of my big vase to where, so right here, where is the bottom of that vase that's up here? It's right at kind of the lip. So I'm going to do the same thing in my drawing here. And I have to think about, what is the distance between them? How far do I need to go over in order to accurately get that vase in there? Kind of cuts off at the top. If I'm okay with that, I can leave it. If not, I might need to shrink things. You also need to make sure that you are including the fabric. You already did fabric. You guys did knots. I see a little bit of a box in there, so I'm going to put that in. I see this apple comes into my view, so I'm going to put that in. There's this other bottle. I might have to move this bottle down in front of the apple. You should be including at least 5 objects from the still life in your drawing. I could start to put in some of those wrinkles, but I might actually go back in and do more of that when I go in with my contour line. All right, if I'm happy with the layout of that, now I'm ready to go in with my contour line, thinking about thick and thin lines, smooth and continuous lines, and I'm still looking at my objects to tell me how I need to draw in my contour line. I'm not just assuming that what I did before with my sketch is accurate. If you don't like what's happening, erase it and fix it before you even go in with your contour line. It's not going to magically get better once you go in. So make sure that you are fixing the mistakes that you have before you start going in with your contour line. Oh, my apple runs into my vase there, so I'm going to go ahead and start working on my apple a little bit, looking for some of those subtle changes in details, thinking about smooth continuous lines, thinking about line weight. I see the stem in here. I'm going to go ahead and include that as well. You can also think about including some of the highlights and that you might be seeing on some of your objects. You might want those to be really light in pressure to show that they're only a highlight. It's not actually a part of the surface of the object. If you need to erase as you go, that's totally fine. Or you can wait until the end to erase your guidelines. You should not finish this today. If you do, you're going too fast, you're not looking for subtle changes in details, and your proportions are probably not correct. You will have more time next class in order to finish it. Take your time. Observe the objects that you see in front of you and draw them accurately. You should be in your right brain, which means that you should be quiet, you should be concentrating on what it is that you are doing and not talking to your neighbor. So you can see here that I've started to draw in my vase and my apple onto my drawing there. And I would just kind of keep working nice and slow, concentrating on having contour lines, and double checking with that checklist that I just showed you to make sure that you are meeting all of those requirements so that you can get the best score possible.